My favorite part about anticipating a new game or a DLC isn't what I know, it's what I don't know. The intrigue of not knowing what to expect, and getting excited at all the mind-blowing surprises that will be in the new product. Sometimes, to get myself hyped up, I like to innocently browse the internet to see what people are thinking or saying about the new game, along with possible speculations or confirmations. But with the new Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for what I believe will be Game of the Decade, Elden Ring, I couldn't have been more excited to be surprised and blown away by the amazing scale and creativity just like the base game. Speculating about the new crazy bosses and weapons and oh, never mind, Moist Critical has to talk about everything trendy, so here's a major boss directly on the thumbnail. Oh, and Asmongold has an entire tier list showing every single new boss on the thumbnail. For some reason, no matter how much I press not interested on these hack channels, they never go away because they're not supposed to. When you're browsing stuff for an upcoming game or DLC on YouTube and you see a thumbnail like this from some clickbait slave YouTuber, you kind of just don't know what to do. You sort of just look away and pretend you didn't see it, but it will always be there in the back of your mind. And when you come into the game actively getting ready to fight that boss, it feels less like an amazing and surprising moment and more like just going through the motions. Like, oh yeah, time to fight this guy from the thumbnail on Elden Ring clickbait channel that will die in 2 weeks after the DLC comes out, number 18 over here. I'm really glad they were willing to spoil something so important on their thumbnail just for some easy views. What's funny is half the time the game isn't even out either. Especially a week or so before release, review copies are given out to these shills, so they can blast through the game like zombies with their level 15 Mimic tier, ignoring basically everything just to get to the final boss and spoil it first. I can't imagine how soul-crushing it is to have a new game come out that you're excited for, but you're one of these guys, so you just have to speed run through it instead of taking the time to smell the roses and actually take the game in. Just so you can get 12 million views in 1 week from these Twitchy worshippers who don't intend to actually play the game itself, and instead watch their favorite parasocial streamer play it. It must be a tough decision to make, but when it comes to fun or money, the choice here is obvious. And no, before you say I'm not going out of my way to spoil myself and then complain about it, I went into Shadow of the Erdtree, my main example in this video, entirely blind without even watching vanilla Elden Ring videos to get excited for it, because I knew this shit would happen. I didn't even watch the trailer for it, and every boss and item I found felt incredibly special, almost like I actually discovered it for myself, instead of being this guy and searching Elden Ring DLC best weapon on day 1, and running past every enemy to the weapon with his rune farmed level 713 character with dual katanas, only to beat the final boss on first try and say the DLC only has 3 hours of content and he's already bored of it. Playing the game is actually a decent idea to prolong your enjoyment, believe it or not. This is how you burn yourself out immediately. Searching stuff like this is also just bound to spoil boss fights and shit, because nobody has any respect for secrets anymore. You simply can't be anywhere around that bubble of the product, or sometimes even anywhere on the internet without some of these hacks spoiling the surprises. I don't use TikTok or Shitter or Reddit or almost any of that cancer almost ever, but I've heard of the non-stop repetitive, unfunny, and obvious memes about the DLC that have spoilers in them without even realizing it because they're trying to exploit a hot topic. If I hadn't been to an area in the DLC and saw something like this without a spoiler warning, I would be pretty pissed off. Let me paint an example and put it in a perspective for an upcoming game. Say it's 2027 and Hollow Knight Silksong is about to come out. What would I do to get pumped up for it? I'd probably watch a few speculation videos, maybe some older Hollow Knight videos, or maybe even play Hollow Knight again for myself, wondering and anticipating the new mechanics and enemies and even the final boss. These things are a big deal to me, especially final bosses. It's essentially what the entire game has been building up to, and the quintessential finale, and it's just ruined. It's like the final twist of a movie getting spoiled for you without your consent, just because some bored clone YouTuber had to pay for his vapes that month. You can only experience a game for the first time once, and that's it. You'll always vaguely know what to expect in subsequent playthroughs. Everyone has had that one game they wish they could play again for the first time, just to relive the wonder and excitement of it. But why bother with that when some content farm on YouTube can just spew out a thumbnail with every single one of the major bosses on it? They know exactly what they're doing. And before you ask, no, I didn't get spoiled on the Elden Ring DLC. But I know people who did, and you probably do too. You essentially just have to go in completely blind to avoid these leeches. You shouldn't have to do that, but whenever there's a new trendy game everyone's excited about, these types smell blood in the air and decide to plan their attack on your algorithm. Sometimes they just pop up on your homepage without warning, because YouTube shoves them in everyone's faces. I don't even care about the video itself. It's just some faceless recap of all the bosses in the game that you blasted through in 2 hours, after shelling out to FromSoft and living online. Just don't cover the entire thumbnail with spoilers. Or do. It seems to work. Like, really work. As I mentioned, it's gotten to the point where you essentially can't search up anything about the game or DLC until you've completed it. At least some of these social media sites have a spoiler option, but YouTube doesn't for whatever reason. Probably because that's one extra click from the viewer to reveal the thumbnail, and attention spans are so low that probably nobody would use it. And that's not even getting into leakers. I've got to say, when I'm playing Dead by Daylight or something with, you know, constant content updates, and anticipating the new chapter and what the new killer might look like and what their new abilities might look like, it sure feels good to have some rando on Reddit leak it 1 week before, because people get so bored of waiting that they'd rather ruin it for themselves and everyone else for that matter, because they can't wait that dreaded week and experience the content when intended. Fuck the surprise, fuck everyone who worked on it. Just leak it for your 15 seconds of fame and then retreat into the hole from whence you came. I really hope it was worth it, man. Like, it may seem cool seeing a leak or something before you're supposed to, but in the long term, it's not going to be beneficial. Okay, so I'm a favorite farm tube to fight this boss. Yeah, I remember this attack. Okay, yeah, I remember he was screaming when that happened because he's supposed to. What the fuck, bro? This game is so crazy, bro. What the fuck? I remember he cut off his own arm. Like, what? Like, the voice critical said so? Like, what? I love surprises, and I know a lot of other people do too. The thing with these YouTubers especially is they can still make the videos. Honestly, the Jabba the Hutts who like ruining the game for themselves are still gonna watch it. A lot of them don't even plan to play it, they're just gonna boot up their 50th Minecraft world. I just don't think they should have fucking every major boss on the thumbnail, but I guess that's where the money comes from. Exploiting something currently popular really is like 90% of YouTube nowadays, so I'm not sure why I'm even surprised. These types of faceless, soulless, unopinionated boss fight showcase channels have existed forever now. And like many things I cover on this channel, I'm honestly surprised more people don't find this shit as annoying as I do. If you need to make this shit and exploit the algorithm, just leave something up to the imagination. When you make these thumbnails, it just seems so desperate. But yeah, that's essentially all I wanted to say. This was bugging me when Elden Ring itself came out, but the DLC is just history repeating itself. And that goes for more than just spoilers. The game is too hard, the game is too user-friendly. The areas are too hidden, it gives you too much to work with, the bosses are unfair. It's just such incessant, obvious debates that seem to happen every time one of these games comes out. Trust me, you're adding nothing new by engaging in it yourself. You're just regurgitating what your favorite robot streamer told you to say. Just shut up and play the game. It's the same debate over and over again. And it got old back in 2022. Anyways, if there's anything I want people to take away from this video is to be more diligent when browsing the internet around new games. And YouTubers, maybe leave a little bit more to the imagination in these thumbnails. You won't because your channel's a factory, but it's some nice food for thought. Anyways, that's it. See ya.